views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
Coming up on this edition of Today's Verdict, have you had the misfortune of losing your home to foreclosure? Or maybe you just received a notice from your bank that a lawsuit is ready to be filed. If so, you won't want to miss tonight's show as we tell you everything you need to know to protect losing your home. And are you interested in all things military? Well, lucky for you, we have an attorney who will be on set to give us a lesson on benefits, contractors, and all things related to our armed forces. As you can see, we have much to get to, so stay tuned. Today's Verdict starts right now. Hello, and welcome to Today's Verdict, the live and interactive show that gives you your legal rights and options. I'm your host and trial attorney, David Lesh. Well, Today's Verdict is always encouraging you to stay connected. Make sure to tweet us at Today's Verdict and hashtag Ask Today's Verdict if you have a question. Also, make sure to like us and follow us on Facebook at Today's Verdict and check us out at bronxnet.tv/BronxLegal. And last, but certainly not least, don't forget to tweet me at David Lesh. Well, the foreclosure process is complicated, but lucky for you, we have supervising attorney Oda Friedheim here to help clear the process for us. Oda, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
My only experience really with the foreclosure process, I come in very late in the game when the court appoints me maybe to be a referee once the property is ready to be sold to a third party. Luckily, we have you there to make sure that sometimes this doesn't get that far. Am I correct?
Correct,
All right.
yes.
Well, where do you come in? How do we even start with legal aid?
Okay, first of all, the court, together with the court, we operate a clinic right out of the courthouse. Now, how do homeowners actually know about our services? Well, the minute they get a summons and complaint from the foreclosing lender, their bank, they get a letter from this court here, Bronx Supreme Court, telling them about our clinic, which is Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Legal aid is there on Wednesdays. And people come in, sometimes they come in with pre-foreclosure problems. Hey, I'm falling behind on my mortgage. But most of the time they come in with the summons and complaint. We take a look at it. We, number one, start the conversation as to what their particular situation is. How did they get into the default in the first place?
Well, let me ask you a question. Let's say they're like a month or two behind. When do they start getting calls from their bank to let them know, look, you're going to be in default here. I'm going to get our attorneys involved. Do they get a few months? How many months do they usually get?
Well, actually, I'm glad you raised that question because aside from the bank sending out letters, hey, you're falling behind, you owe us, there is now a law, in fact, it's been in existence for quite some time, that now requires the lender to send the borrower, the homeowner, what we call a 90-day notice. A 90-day notice, that's what it's called because it's 90 days before they can commence a foreclosure. But the 90-day notice is basically, dear homeowner, and it's sent from the servicer initially. And the servicer is the entity, the company that services the mortgage. It's not always the same as the company that owns the mortgage. So you get a letter from the mortgage servicer. It's a 90-day notice that says, you are now behind so many days, and here is more or less the amount to reinstate your mortgage. But I just want to add something really important here, because sometimes we have experienced, because there's these numbers, that homeowners don't read beyond that. The rest of the notice, under the law, which must be written in very specific font types and language, advises the homeowner of their rights, and that is critical. In addition, there's a list attached to the 90-day notice, and it's a must. This is what all the services must do. The list lists all the housing counseling services that may assist a homeowner in what we generally call loss mitigation. Most of the time it's to modify the mortgage, but it may be other, short sales, it may be other things. I just wanted to really stress that.
Well, let me get back to the letter for a second. This particular letter, is it a certified letter? Does it come, is it get stamped on the door? Because what if the homeowner doesn't get the letter?
Very good. Yes. The letter actually must be sent both by regular mail and by certified mail. And moreover, the mortgage servicer also has to file that notice and the fact that they did it with the Department of Financial Services, which is a New York State agency. So there's a lot of different steps that the servicer must follow. So yes, it is true occasionally a homeowner says they didn't get the
Never got
letter.
it.
It's possible. It could also be the post office didn't send it.
Well,
but
well, here's the thing, and you touched on this earlier. Mortgages really are transferred or sold, so you may not even know who's holding your mortgage. I mean, you may have gotten a mortgage from Chase. Chase sold it to a third party who sold it to another third party. How do you find out who really owns your mortgage if you want to pay it off?
yeah, that's a very good question. Actually, in most instances, the mortgage servicer could be Caliber, it could be Nation Star, I don't know, there's so many of them now, basically are the agent of the actual owner of the mortgage. And that it is confusing for the homeowner, I couldn't doubt that. So when they get that summons and complaint, and the caption, there may be XYZ Bank as trustee for serious,
And
et
you know
cetera,
that
et
person's
cetera.
reading and saying, this isn't my bank. I don't pay this to this particular person. Who is, First Federal? Who is this? But they probably have
Well,
no idea.
A lot of mortgages, are bundled into a big package and are held by a trust. But the homeowner pays the principal, interest, most often taxes and insurance, to the mortgage servicer. The trust, or whoever is the actual owner of the mortgage, not always, but in most instances, contracts with a mortgage servicer. And what I know is very confusing for homeowners, because both ownership of the mortgage and servicing rights frequently get transferred. So the homeowner is constantly confronted
Right.
with, who is this now?
Let's talk about a notice of pendency. What is a notice of pendency?
Well, that comes along with the filing of the summons and complaint.
Okay.
The summons and complaint starts the foreclosure action. And the lis pendens, which is another word for a notice of pendency, basically is a notice to the world that, hey, this property is now being foreclosed, and we are cutting off your rights to make any claims on this particular property. That's at least the purpose.
But it's the notice of pendency that alerts a lot of other people that there is a possible default, and that's when the vultures come out.
Yes, very true. And most of the homeowners that we meet, first they tell us they get tons of mail. And that is a problem in of itself, because if you get tons of mail from, unfortunately, scammers, as I would say, you might sometimes miss the important notices, because you get every day dozens
Give
of
me an
letters.
example. I'm home, I'm in default, ring, ring, tell me what they say on the phone to me.
Yeah, or the knock on the door. Oh, we can get you a loan modification, regardless of having actually ever had discussed with the homeowners the particular situation, or we can just wipe out your mortgage altogether.
Well, I'm not really sure if I'm interested. What do you mean? I really don't understand. Then all of a sudden they start throwing out numbers, I guess.
Well, they may just sound very convincing, and sadly, I have to say, and this is really important to get that out there now, is that many homeowners, understandably being very scared to lose their home, sometimes really fall for it and actually have sent sometimes out-of-state companies without even a proper office thousands of dollars
For a loan
to get
modification
a
that's
loan
never going to exist.
modification. And more often than not, such a loan modification is never submitted, or submitted in a way that it's incomplete. But I want to say something that's really important here, and that is, when homeowners do this, not only do they lose thousands of dollars that they cannot afford, but on top of that, they're giving highly private information to a scam outfit, social security number, your bank account, and so on and so on. So that's why we want to emphasize the importance of go to a bona fide, to a good, legal service provider.
All right, so now they get to you. You give them the counseling services and tell them where to go. Do you show up with them when they see a referee in the courthouse or someplace else?
Well, that gets to a whole part of how the process now works. So initially what we do is, when they come with the summons and complaint, we look at their potential defenses and we assist them with an answer, because if there are certain things you don't raise in the beginning, it's like a defense that you give up. So
Give me a couple of defenses.
for example, well, one important one we call standing. That has to do with whether or not the actual owner of the mortgage actually doesn't just hold the mortgage, but holds the note. So that gets a little technical, but that's an important defense. If you don't raise it in the beginning, you've basically given up on it.
Fine.
So the job of these answers are to preserve, not always litigate, but to preserve defenses, because we never know what's going to happen. But then comes the next important part, and that is really important. New York State, many, many years ago, enacted a law that provides homeowners of residential properties, not commercial, and provided they live there in the property, with the settlement conferences. And there are not just one settlement conference, there are usually many. They're held in the court before a court-appointed, well, I should say a court-employed referee, a lawyer, who's
Usually a court attorney.
right, a court attorney, and they're court referees in this instance. And the function of such referees is to assist the parties, meaning on one hand, the attorney for the lender, meaning the lender actually, and the homeowner to come to some resolution. And we typically represent homeowners in that process because there's a lot of advocacy involved in issues and disputes. So
Does it usually get resolved at that point, or does it end up coming to where I get involved and I end up having to sell the property?
well, I would say that in many cases, we are able to assist homeowners in getting loan modification, but it is often through the settlement conference process.
So that's why the settlement conference is so important.
They're very important because we also know many homeowners that really try very hard to save their home. Even before they get that summons and complaint, they call up the servicer and say, you know, I'm interested in a loan modification. And frankly, just on their own, they get a bit of a runaround.
Sure.
So the settlement conference is an important tool, in a sense, to work out these loan
What are
modifications.
some tips you would give to somebody who's watching right now and they think that they're possibly hitting a wall and they may lose their home? They're getting calls from predatory lenders, and what would you tell them?
Well, I would tell them, number one, when they get that 90-day notice, they can, at that juncture, contact one of the housing counseling organizations. But obviously, we are also there, as I said already, we have the clinic every day, I mean, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday in the courthouse.
Where in the courthouse? Just so we can find
It's actually on the 6th floor, room 607A. And
This is Supreme Court we're talking about,
Supreme
right?
Court, yes.
51.
It's a big building right on the corner of
Sure.
Grand Concourse and 161st Street. Take up the elevator to the 6th floor, 607A. We are there on Wednesday. Bronx Legal Services is, I believe, there on Thursday. So each day is covered except Monday and Friday.
Wonderful. And you're going to come back and give us an update and let us know how the world of foreclosure is going. You promise?
Yes. Oh, I will.
All right. We have to take a quick break, but don't worry, we'll be back with more Today's Verdict right after this.
We cannot be bystanders.
We can stop to make sure someone is okay.
We can warn someone when their drink isn't safe.
And disrupt the situation.
We can.
Get someone the cab.
Or walk them home safely.
We can make campuses safer for our friends.
Our roommates.
Our classmates, our fellow human beings.
We cannot be bystanders.
We can intervene.
It's on us.
All of us.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
How can I help my daughter with her reading?
Searching for help with Dachshund reading.
No.
Let me try.
Sarah's bright, but when she's reading, she has trouble sounding out words.
Playing world music.
What?
I give up.
Wait, I was trying to show you how Sarah feels every day. Frustrating, isn't it? Redirecting to understood.org.
Join parents and experts at understood.org, a free online resource about learning and attention issues to help your child thrive.
We are neighbors and best friends.
I love my sister.
My heart doesn't see race. Love is love.
Our family is no less than any other family.
Welcome back to Today's Verdict. I'm your host, David Lesh. We are always encouraging you to stay connected. Tweet us at Today's Verdict. Joining the military is a life-changing experience during which you will receive a variety of resources and benefits that can help you and your family. Well, today we'll learn all about these benefits with attorney Gary Port. Gary, thanks for being here.
No problem.
I think the viewers should immediately know that you're a retired lieutenant colonel.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about your military background as an attorney, please.
Well, I was with the Judge Advocate General's Corps, lawyers. So as I like to say, I was chairborne, not airborne.
Okay.
The job of the JAG, we're the lawyers. I was in the Army, and I worked my way up from lieutenant to captain to major lieutenant colonel. When I finally left the military, I was an advisor to generals. So when generals would be involved in stuff, the JAG would be there saying, sir, you can either do this, or this is how to do this, or sir, that's a really bad idea. And hopefully your general will listen to you. You're involved as a JAG in all aspects of military law. You're involved in criminal, administrative, employment law, environmental law.
Now, do you do that separately from actually being out in the civil world here? In other words, I know you were a prosecutor at some point. Do you do both at the same time? You do one at one point and one at the other point?
No, there's a couple of tracks. I started off in the active component, what we call the AC. So after law school, I went off and I did the active deal. And when I finished active duty, I joined the reserves. And despite what they tell you, it's not 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks a year. It was a heck of a lot more time.
Sure.
And I would then work my way up in the reserves. I spent a lot of time while in the reserves, wearing the uniform, working my way up to lieutenant colonel, and finally ending up working as the legal advisor to the commanding general of the 78th Division down at Fort Dix.
Let's talk about some terms that a lot of the viewers always ask me, and I really don't know too much about. Honorably discharged, dishonorably discharged. What are these? I mean, you see them on movies and stuff, but what do these terms really mean?
Yeah.
From a legal standpoint, if we could.
Well, one of the big problems is from the media has no idea what they're talking about. And unfortunately, a lot of folks in the military have no idea what they're talking about. With regard to discharges, we have what's called administrative discharges, which are non-punitive, non-criminal, and allegedly are not supposed to follow you into the civilian world. That, by the way, is not true. That is the honorable discharge, which is the gold standard, but there are ways that the honorable discharge can be tarnished. There's the general discharge under honorable circumstances. Not the honorable, it's general. You weren't that bad, but you weren't that great. Oh, by the way, you're going to lose your GI Bill.
Okay.
Then you've got the other than honorable. Other than honorable is the worst administrative discharge you can get, and if you get that, you're going to lose a lot of your benefits, if not all of the benefits. And good luck trying to find a job in the civilian world. Now you've got the punitive discharges. Punitive means you go to a trial. We call it a courts-martial. We have a judge who is a JAG officer appointed as a judge for a 3-year tour, generally a lieutenant colonel or higher. We have a jury called the courts-martial, which is handpicked by the general. And that jury, you may have heard, your viewers.
Usually I've seen on television, like those are the ones where the movies portray the
very badly though.
Right, which is the rights. What's the movie with Nicholson and Tom Cruise?
I never saw it because I didn't want to grind my teeth
Does
and throw
anyone
my
remember
remote
the
at the
movie?
TV.
No, come on.
Somebody
tell me the movie.
But I avoid all that stuff because it's all so wrong. Now,
a few good men.
Now, in civil criminal, where you're talking about New York State or the federal, the jury has to be unanimous in its verdict, not in a court-martial. So in a jury, New York jury, you got 11 for conviction, 1 for acquittal. It hangs. You got to do a retrial. We have no hung juries in the military. It's 2/3 vote. We take a vote, 2/3. Okay. If you make it 2/3, guilty. If you don't make it, not guilty. He walks away.
Wow.
So
most people don't realize that.
So it makes the trial work a little interesting when you're doing jury selection because you're playing the numbers game. Okay, I've got 6 on the jury. Okay, 2/3. Okay, I'm defense. I can probably hang this. I can probably get my guy off. Or if I'm a prosecutor, I don't want that number because it's going to give me a strange result.
Now, you mentioned something a second or two ago about good luck getting your benefits or the GI Bill that you lose. What do you come in with when you get into the services? What do they give you?
Okay, the first thing, right off the bat, when you raise your hand, go in and do it, you get full medical. Okay, that's awesome.
A family too?
Yes, and your family.
Okay.
But that's that family being your wife or husband and children.
Not parents.
Not parents.
Okay.
Unless your parents are determined to be your dependents. So you have a sick mother or father
And you've
who's
been taking care of that
right.
particular
Then you can
person.
get a waiver to get them on your benefits. So you get, first off, you get that straight off the bat. If you are living in the barracks, it is great because you're living in the barracks. You're not paying any rent, and you eat at the mess hall. Yay, hallelujah.
Right.
Okay, your money's now free.
And you have the military staff if you have a problem on.
You got medical, and now the Army really is the only one that does this. If you have any legal issue whatsoever, you can go down to the JAG office and get free legal advice. That's also pretty cool.
So basically, when you're on the base, a lot of things are free for you.
Yeah, you got a lot of nice stuff going for you. Now, if you
Now, here's the problem: you're not always going to be on the base.
Right.
And that's when you end up needing an attorney on the outside because of the way, I guess, you were discharged or not discharged.
Right.
Give me an example.
If you get an honorable discharge, you're going to get all your benefits. That's wonderful.
You keep them for life.
Well, it depends on certain benefits. If you've done 20 years in the military and retire, you get full medical, you get a retirement pay, you get the commissary, which is a grocery store, the PX, which is like Walmart without sales tax. If you don't do 20 years, then you're not going to get those benefits. You're going to get other benefits. You may get other benefits, such as if you sign up for GI Bill. If you do your time, get an honorable discharge, you get your GI Bill. If you get a general discharge, you lose your GI Bill. So you can do your time, they give you a general discharge, you've lost your GI Bill, which is worth a lot of money because the GI Bill pays up to the highest rate of the highest school, not private, but public school. So in this case, SUNY, I think SUNY Albany is probably the highest.
Okay.
So if you are a New Yorker, you're going to get paid for your tuition up to SUNY Albany. Plus, you're going to get a per diem for the time that you're in school, additional walking around money. Plus, you're going to get additional.
So what happens if they're bringing you up on charges or you think you may not be the most honorably discharged?
Well, if you get a general discharge, you lose that. If you get an other than honorable discharge, you lose that. Plus, if you get an other than honorable discharge and you have a medical condition caused by the military, you will not be able to go to the VA and get that treatment.
Which leads me to a topic that I really want to talk to you about, this post-traumatic stress and the traumatic brain injuries that seem to be happening to our military when coming home. How is that affecting your ability to be honorably, dishonorably discharged?
Okay, let's take a look. Technically, this is what should happen. You come back from theater and you have a problem, whether it's traumatic brain injury or it's PTSD or both. You get assessed, you get evaluated, and now if it turns out that your PTSD or TBI is such that you can't continue, you go through, this is what the books say, but this is what always happens. You go through the medical evaluation board system. And the doctors then will evaluate you and say, oh, you know what, you're just too sick to stay in the military. We are going to medically retire you. That's great. You get all your benefits. You get to go to the VA. You get a pension. It's all wonderful and great. But that's not what happened. Here's what happens. You come back with PTSD or TBI. Your company commander, who's a kid probably about between 25 and 30, he's getting pressure from his boss, the lieutenant colonel. He's getting pressure from his boss, the colonel. We need to make sure this unit is up and running. We need to make sure that you're combat ready. Why is Sergeant Smith a problem? What's going on with Sergeant Smith? Now, the captain, under the rules, under the statute, the 2010 statute, he should be sending Sergeant Smith off for evaluation. But he doesn't have time for that. Because if Sergeant Smith, because if he has Sergeant Smith on his books, then he has a problem on his statistics. So he's got to get rid of Sergeant Smith.
So instead, he will discharge.
So they will maneuver Sergeant Smith into a situation where he'll get either a general discharge or an other than honorable discharge. Now,
and he needs it more than everybody because he's got the potential.
All right, I'll give you a perfect real-world example at my clinic. I'm also an assistant professor of law at Hofstra Law School, where we operate a free clinic for veterans who have these problems. We had a Marine who came to us. His first week in Iraq, he was blown up by an IED. Traumatic brain injury, PTSD, perforated eardrum. The Marines put him right back to duty a week later. He spends his entire tour in Iraq. His 12-man squad is reduced to 4 men because the other folks are killed, including his roommate who took a round to the head, which he saw happen. Now the guy rotates back to the States. He has been diagnosed with PTSD and TBI. The Marine Corps does nothing for him. They give him 1 week off, tell him to come back to duty. He then self-medicates with drugs, pops hot on a urinalysis test, and their attitude is, you're not a good Marine, they give him an other than honorable discharge, denying him his right to go to the VA and be treated for PTSD and TBI.
So what's his remedy?
His remedy was to, fortunately he came to Hofstra Law School. We then put an appeal into something called the Navy Marine Board for the Correction of Military Records. They have the power to rewrite reality, literally. So we put in an appeal saying that he should never have been discharged this way. He should have gotten an honorable discharge and therefore get all his rights and benefits.
You could still appeal it this late in the game at this point?
Yes. It's called the discharge. We have the Discharge Review Board, which does an upgrade, or the Board of Correction of Military Records. The Navy Marine Board for the Correction of Military Records agreed with us. They gave him an honorable discharge, and now he's getting his benefits out at the VA in Long Island.
All right, this is very important. Where do we find you? Just so, because someone's going to be watching and...
let's see. I always forget the number to my clinic because I actually have a law practice, but the clinic's number...
What's the clinic number?
...is 516-463-5934. And that's the Hofstra clinical program, and that's the Veterans Clinic there, which I teach along with Professor Janet Dulgin.
Very important. And you're going to come back and give us some more stuff.
I can give you a lot more. I mean, we haven't even scratched the surface.
Oh, my gosh. All right, well, with that, that's all the time we have for today. I'd like to thank our guests for joining us, and of course you, the viewers, for watching. If you missed any part of today's show, be sure to check it out at www.bronxnet.tv. Also remember, if there's a legal issue or topic you'd like to see on a future edition of Today's Verdict, just feel free to contact me at davidlesh@bronxnet.org or tweet us at Today's Verdict and make sure to hashtag #AskToday'sVerdict. For myself and all of us at Today's Verdict, always remember, know your rights, know your issues, reach a verdict. See you next time.
They said I have troll teeth.
That my voice sounded like a possessed baby doll.
That no one would ever love someone as stupid as me.
That I was fat, ugly.
Disgusting.
The effect of bullying is potent.
We will no longer be the silent majority.
Now, when you see online bullying, there's something you can do about it.
We're gonna take action with the I.
I am a witness.
I am a witness.
I am a witness.
I am a witness.
I am a witness, and so are you.